I want to tell you everything you're going to hear today is applicable to your work world. I obviously want to keep you safe in business, but it's also applicable to your personal life. It can protect you at home. It can protect you, your children, your grandchildren, relatives, but most importantly, yourself. So take what you want from this presentation and realize that, hey, maybe this doesn't apply to the office, but this applies to my personal life, or vice versa. You'll find something here for you. Now, before we begin, let me just tell you up front, I am a bit of a cyber geek, always have been, and I promise to not start getting geeky on you. I ask you keep an open mind and not judge me. Come on. All right. We can't have cyber training without a cat video. It just goes hand in hand with anything computer related. Now, Dan gave you my background and he talked about, there we go. Why does this want to play twice? We've obviously been hacked by the Russians, no doubt. So let's move along from here. Excuse me 1 second while I adjust something on my computer screen. Won't force you to watch it again. There we go. All right. So Dan has told you all about me, but I got to be honest, there's a lot of people who talk about cybersecurity. There's a lot of people that you bring in. You said you have a cyber presentation about once a year. Why listen to me? What special blessing do I have that I should be here today? I put this up as my special blessing. That is obviously Pope Francis, in case you didn't know. He is the one on the left in this picture. But I had the great opportunity to go over to the Vatican and talk to the Vatican about cybersecurity. And when you think about the Vatican, the Catholic Church, it's really nothing more than a big company. They have offices around the world, they have personnel, they have information, they have finances. And they want to keep it safe from people that would steal from the church. So if the Vatican, the church, is worried about their cybersecurity, imagine the criminals out there that wouldn't hesitate to steal from you. And that's why this is so important today. When we talk about stealing, you look at this graph here from the FBI. So, for example, credit cards, second one down on the line. You get your credit card compromised, it is a big deal. It's a real hassle, a major inconvenience. But when I steal your credit card, I'm going on the dark web and I'm selling it for about 40 cents. That's all I get for it. And why is that? Because I'm not just stealing your credit card. I'm stealing thousands of credit cards. I hack into your business. I want everybody you do business with, their credit cards information. The companies you work for, the same thing. I take it and resell it. I'm not using the actual card. I'm selling that card to somebody else who's going to use the card. And that's who, if the cops get involved at all, they're going to go after. I will tell you, if you're a cyber criminal and you fly under the radar, nobody's ever coming after you. And that's why it's so important we learn how to protect ourselves. When we talk about doing things on the internet or the dark web, this iceberg is representative of what the internet really is. You and I are the above the surface, that part of the iceberg you can see. We're web surfing, we're using Google, we're sending email and downloading videos from TikTok and YouTube. The vast majority of the internet is below the surface where people never go. Now, some of you may have been on the dark web, and it's perfectly legal to go there. The way you get to the dark web is just like any other program you're using on your computer. You download a program that lets you get there. You downloaded Microsoft so that you can use Explorer and you have Word. Google software to get on the dark web and you can download a program. Now, when you get to the dark web, what are you going to see? Well, there's a lot of criminal activity. And if you don't need to go there, I recommend you steer clear. But here's an example of some of the criminal activity. So This is a screenshot of essentially the Amazon for the dark web. If you look over on the left-hand side, you'll see all these categories: weapons and gold and jewelry and counterfeiting, etc. Regarding the weapons, I will tell you, people talk about gun control. That ship has sailed, because it doesn't matter what kind of laws you have. I can go on the dark web and order any weapon I want and have it shipped to my address or some anonymous address where it gets dropped off and I collect it. If you look at the third line down, once again, we'll go back to credit cards. You'll see cards up there and the number next to it, 991. That's not 991 credit cards. You click on there and you have your choice of 991 websites from which you can choose stolen credit cards. The obvious question is, well, why doesn't law enforcement do something about this? First of all, most of these websites are hosted outside the country. U.S. law enforcement has zero jurisdiction on anything outside our borders. We have to rely on a foreign country to help us. I'll tell you, China, Russia, they're not going to be jumping up to do anything to help our needs here. Even if the company is in the United States, they find that cyber criminal, it's like a game of whack-a-mole. We hit them down. Next thing you know, someone else is popping up and taking over. It's a losing battle from that perspective. Again, you only have to make yourself safe and protect yourself to protect against cybercrime. The analogy is you and I decide to go for a walk on a trail and a mountain lion comes along. I don't have to outrun that mountain lion. I just have to outrun you. And that's what you want to do with cybersecurity. You want to be a little better than the next guy. The cyber criminal will not waste time. They will go after the easy pickings, the low-hanging fruit. They're not going to mess with somebody who's taking the time to be careful. Your business, there's a lot of threats out there. We see it in the news headlines now that anybody's in the financial industry, whether it's banks, CPAs, financial planners, cyber criminals have figured out you're a good place to go to. Why? Well, sensitive data you have. Think of all the information: social security numbers, addresses, phone numbers, dates of birth. All of that is standard information. All of that I can take and then create credit in somebody else's name, get credit cards, bank accounts. Maybe I'm going to make up a fake identification. You've got all that information. When we look at the financial threats out there in the cyber industry, financial institutions, and again, not just banks, it's anybody dealing with the aspect of finances, investment bankers, accountants, etc. 25% of all cybercrime is going to your industry because the criminals have figured out it's one-stop shopping. I can hack into one place and get money. I can hack into another place and get information. I hack into you guys, I get both. And that saves a lot of time for the cyber criminal. It's why you're targeted and why you have to be careful. The concerns we have is, first of all, think about your business being interrupted. You're shut down because of a cyber attack. That's not good for anybody. Also, the cost of data breaches, you've got to recover. You probably got to hire a forensics person who can come in and fix your system. There's penalties and lawsuits. As a recovering attorney myself, there's always class actions if there's a group of people that can be represented because you've been breached, and your brand reputation. While cybercrime is incredibly common, the general public still doesn't know a lot about it. So when they see somebody's hacked, they lose trust and they don't want to lose their money, their information, and do business with somebody who's been a victim. And again, you're not the criminal, you're the victim, but it's important. We haven't gotten to the point where the public understands that. You got to protect yourself.
John, if I could say something, that just struck me as a really interesting point. And I wonder, is there some way that education of quote unquote the public can happen so that the reputational damage might be a little bit less from one of these big hackings?
Well, the public is being educated, and I think you will see this will change generationally because look at kids today. They're growing up with cyber skills from the age of infancy. I've seen studies where you'll take a toddler holding a magazine, and that toddler will start swiping the pages because they're trying to change the picture like you would on an iPad. So that generation will grow up understanding the prevalence of cybercrime, but it's a generation away for most of us. And so that's why we've got to work harder on protecting ourselves, not worrying about what people know or understand. As if it's not bad enough with all the threats out there, we also have to worry about cyber terrorism. If you noticed, we haven't really seen a lot of things blow up lately. And the reason being is because back in the day, that's how terrorists conducted business. They'd set up bombs, bomb trucks, attacks, etc. But they have figured out they can do a lot of this on computer. When you get to the bottom of terrorism, it's not about killing people, destroying buildings, as much as creating fear. And think about the 9/11 attacks, for example. They attacked the financial industry. Why the financial industry? Because the fear, people not having access to their money, records being lost forever, your savings wiped out. That's what they were trying to accomplish in addition to all the carnage. Now I can go online and do all that from the convenience of a computer. There are countries out there that literally have cyber armies, nothing more than people in the military whose job it is to hack us. And again, they're not attacking the government. If our government shut down, which it does frequently, would we even notice if they were not doing business? Probably not. But your business, they always go after the private sector. That's where the bombs used to go off. That's where the cyber attacks are today. Russia's been doing this for a long time. They've been actively hacking us in a number of situations. You know, one of the things when we look at what's going on in the Ukraine, it seems like, the US is in, then we're out, then we're back in. It's because Russia has made it pretty clear, hey, we have the ability to hack you. We know you got to get involved to a certain degree for the world stage and your perception in the world. But you do too much, we're going to step up our cyber attacks that you might not be able to protect against. And so that's why we're walking this tightrope of being involved with the Ukraine, because Russia, they're focusing on hacking our businesses. Now, we can hack them back, but everything's government controlled, so nobody individually is really affected. Again, it's part of the problem of where we are today in protecting our businesses, so not just criminals, but rogue governments can't hurt us. So, first question I have is, how vulnerable is your computer? You get a brand new computer for the home or office, you take it out of a box, you plug it in, connect to the internet. How long before somebody hacks in? Average is about 5 minutes. And the reason is, it's not just somebody like me sitting behind a computer trying to get into yours. It's robot computers, what's called botnets. I hack into a computer that I'm able to take over. I tell that computer, go out and search for other unprotected computers. That computer will then search for others, and it'll become this large army scanning the internet. It's going on night and day. You get a brand new computer, you got to have your software, your antivirus, your anti-malware. You got to have your filters set up on your internet. Don't connect to anything unless it's secure. We're going to talk about that in a minute when you travel as well. This stuff is expensive. When we talk about data breaches, so last year, biggest data breach year on record. That's because it's growing exponentially and more people are doing more things online. It's expensive for companies. For a large size company, the average loss is about $8 million. That includes your forensic work to repair, your brand reputation. It costs $242 on average per person affected. So think of your clients. If you have 1,000 clients, well, throw a couple of zeros onto that number, because that's what it's going to cost you to recover from something like this. Now, if you're a big company like Capital One, the credit card company, They had a breach. They lost 100 million records. Their new slogan is literally, who's in your wallet? Because everybody who had a credit card with Capital One, their information is out there. And oh, sure, you're required by law to receive a year of free credit monitoring after you've been a victim of a breach. But what happens in a year and a day? As Dan so wisely said earlier, these guys sit on this information and they wait and they watch and then they act. A lot of times these breaches happen long before you ever hear about it. The credit monitoring is gone, and the next thing you know, somebody is trying to use your information. You have to think about credit monitoring for yourself. Maybe think about it for your clients as well. When the FBI talks to businesses, most say, hey, we're kind of defenseless. We really don't know what's going on. But thank goodness we have some really great IT people. But when we go out and talk to the IT people, they tell us, yeah, you know what? We don't really know what's going on as well. Think about your situation. If you have a website, you probably have somebody managing your website. Even if you're with the company, you probably don't have in-house IT. You subcontract. Well, those people don't know what the average employee is doing on a daily basis, what they're looking at, what they're downloading, what vulnerabilities they're exposing the business to. You want to be aware in your business, what are you doing? What are you doing that could put your company at risk? And how can you remain safe? So in the time we have, I'm going to run through the basics, talking about identity theft, phishing, what Dan mentioned, ransomware, which is really on the rise, the Internet of Things, all those devices we have connected to the Internet, a little bit about AI, everybody's interested in artificial intelligence, the business email compromise. If you're going to be a victim, this is what's going to be attacking you in the financial business. And then, of course, your mobile devices. And with mobile, travel. Whether it's traveling on a trip or you're just outside your home, you're traveling. And that's when you can be vulnerable. So, identity theft. I talked about 9/11 before, and when the buildings were attacked, we lost billions of dollars in property damage, in addition to the loss of lives, which was horrific. But when you look at identity theft in this country, we're having a 9/11 every year, billions and billions of dollars being compromised. About 1 in 4 people in this country have been a victim of identity theft. And here's the dark secret. If I steal your information, it is not a crime. It's what I do with that information. So I can go online, dark web, find everything about you that's out there. Even if you're aware, there's nothing anybody can do until I make you a victim and you lose something. You don't want to wait to become a victim. You want to know what's happening and keep yourself protected. I had mentioned before about credit monitoring. Think of it in the context of your house. You have fire insurance. No one would own a home without fire insurance. When is the last time your house burnt down? Yet, I'm telling you, your credit's on fire right now. You need to be watching that through some sort of reporting system. And it's not just about watching banking. It's anything that you can be victimized. You go to a doctor's office, they get hacked. That's not really a financial transaction, but you've lost your information. You want to be monitoring what's going on. Now, there's a lot of services out there. Some of them are ridiculously expensive. In my handout, I've got a recommendation, and I get no remuneration. This is just who I use. I pay pennies a month to have them monitor my credit. They also monitor a couple of generations. So they'll do my kids, they'll do my parents, and everybody in between, all for this one price. The other thing is, think about it for your clientele. You want to set yourself apart. Hey, when I do business with you, I provide you free credit monitoring. You can get credit monitoring for your clients for as cheap as 50 cents a month. So think about that as not only a selling feature, but you're ahead of the game of keeping yourself protected should something happen. It may be a real differentiator. Again, I got that information in the handout, but you're always welcome to call with questions. The thing is, when I steal your information through identity theft, it's not just about my getting your credit card number or something else. A lot of times, they make what's called synthetic IDs, better known as just fake identification. So one of the most common crimes with this is I steal your information. I'm going to make up a fake driver's license, and I'm going to have all your credit information, your credit card information, etc. I'm going to go into, say, a car dealership, buy a brand new car in your name, drive off. Never going to see me again, but you're going to hear about it when you miss the first payment. Here's a picture of a driver's license we took off of somebody who was trying to commit this actual crime. See if you catch the subtle mistake in the driver's license that tipped off the car dealership. Well, there you go. We have a saying in law enforcement, we only catch the stupid ones. Well, here this guy, had he been smart enough to use a picture without his girlfriend in it, look how realistic this license looks. It's not like the fake IDs of when we were young. Today, you can make them with watermarks, etc., would easily pass off. So that's part of the danger. Somebody steals your information, they can have identification to match all the personal information. Not only can they buy a car, they can get a home equity loan on your property, they can apply for credit cards, etc. And you're not going to know until the creditors come calling. Another way is phishing. Now, Dan mentioned phishing. This is an example of a phishing attack that went out to one American city. Phishing is basically an online scam made to trick you into clicking on something, providing information, downloading malware, all to get access to your info. In this case, this is a document purporting to be from the US government. Hey, you're in trouble, you did something wrong, they're serving you with a subpoena. You could click on this, and then you had to enter your personal information, use your credit card to post a small bond, or you could pay a minor fine and make it all go away. As I said, this went out to one American city. 20,000 people received this email. Of the 20,000 people that received this email, 1,800 people actually responded. Think about that. In your business, if you could get a 10% return on your advertising for clientele, that would be phenomenal. That's how convincing these email and phishing scams are. Word of advice here, and if you leave today with nothing else, take this to heart. The US government is never going to send you an email that you're in trouble. First of all, somebody like me will come out and pick you up. You don't have to worry about responding to an email. The government is not set up to do anything via email. I would like to say it's purposeful, but the problem is the government's always a little bit behind the curve. We are using yesterday's technology tomorrow in our business with the government, but IRS, anybody else, they're never going to send you an email. They're always going to send you a snail mail letter. For those who are doing tax preparation, I will tell your clients to get that PIN number from the IRS. They will provide you a special number that has to be on your tax return. That way, if somebody steals your information, without the PIN, they can't file the return and get your refund back. If you don't have a PIN number, do what I do. Owe the government money. Don't wait for that refund. If you owe the government money, no one is going to file a return to pay your taxes. It's one of the easiest ways to keep yourself safe. And frankly, I don't think the government's a great steward of my money. I'd rather it be in my pocket to the last minute than in somebody else's. And most importantly, not in some criminal's pocket. And then I got to prove that I wasn't the one that filed the tax return. Again, any communication by any form of government is always going to be regular U.S. mail.
John, I just comment on what you just said. When they file false tax returns, they basically don't know the real information. So they're going to file a return. They're going to make up W-2s. They're going to make up withholdings, and therefore ask for a lot more money than the real numbers.
Yes, that's commonly true. And then it'll be IRS will usually say we only show this, and they'll issue a partial refund. It's in literally the billions of dollars every year the IRS is paying out mistakenly due to these cyber crimes. that was hence the introduction of the PIN number, but it really hasn't caught on. Not a lot of people, it's only a small percentage of tax filers who are taking advantage of the PIN number. And I've seen people on the receiving end, when somebody has filed a fraudulent return, good luck getting somebody on the phone from the government, and better luck getting them to believe that it wasn't you that filed the return.
Agreed, completely agreed. And most people don't know you can get a voluntary PIN rather than the government issued PIN that's automatic when there's something happening.
Yeah. Usually it's a service your accountant provides. So as anybody who's in accounting doing this, highly recommend it. Again, it's one more step in keeping your clientele safe, especially if you're the one that gets hacked. You want to make sure that they couldn't file the actual return from whatever information was stolen. So moving on, ransomware. Ransomware is incredibly rampant now. There's all different types of ransomware. You've probably heard the term ransomware, but crypto and locker, they lock up your information so you can't ever get to it. Spearware is when they'll target a particular person in the company, usually somebody who is a decision maker or has control of the finances. Leakware is something you could get attacked with, where the hacker will download malware, steal all your information, and say, hey, you know what? I'm going to post everything you have on the internet unless you pay me this ransom. It is incredibly prevalent. So we're having a ransomware attack in the United States once every 14 seconds. So based on that calculation, since we started this morning a little over an hour ago, we've already had 200 ransomware attacks here in the US. It is big business. About $20 billion was lost last year to ransomware attacks. And even if you don't pay the criminal, you still got to get that malware off your system. You still got to get access to your information. Here's the tip. Have a backup of everything you do on a separate system, either another computer, or you're going to have a backup, an external hard drive. Even at home, make sure you're backing up your computer. I went to Amazon, $25. I bought an external hard drive. Computers are very intuitive. You plug it in, it knows to automatically back up to the hard drive. Somebody ever downloads malware onto my computer in the form of ransomware, all I have to do is erase everything on my computer and reinstall my files from an earlier backup before the ransomware was downloaded. I might lose a few files here and there, but I'm not paying a ransom to any criminal. And I will tell you, if you pay, chances are they're going to come back again. We had some big hackings in San Diego in the hospital industry where they started off small, asked for small amounts of money, then came back and asked for more money because they knew the victim would pay. And it takes a while to set up your security. So if you paid yesterday, by tomorrow, you're not going to be ready to protect yourself. They know, and they'll come back. You have a backup, they can send ransomware all day long, and you will be safe.
John, if I can chime in there with a personal story, which I think I told you on one of our calls a few years ago, when the Scripps healthcare system, one of the largest in San Diego, was hacked with a ransomware attack. It happened to be at a time when I had voluntary heart surgery scheduled, and the heart surgery couldn't happen. In fact, no surgery was happening at the hospital for a month because they had to shut down because all their information was, I believe, encrypted, and they couldn't access it. And I think you mentioned to me that they did that. They paid a small ransom, which is what initially was asked for. And that told the hackers right away, oh, we've got an organization who's prepared to pay a ransom. And the price immediately went up many-fold at that point.
That's right. These criminals are out there and they're looking for deep pockets with easy money. But again, if everything's backed up, a different system, you have a different hard drive, you have servers in a different location, you are going to be protected and you don't have to worry. Now, the Internet of Things. So the Internet of Things are all those devices we are owning today that are connected to the internet. You know, your Amazon Echoes, your Google devices in the home, surveillance cameras. I live in a smart house. My thermostat, my refrigerator, my washer and dryer all have internet access. This map here shows the internet right around 2016 presidential election. The red areas is where there was no internet service for about 36 hours. The yellow, there was internet, but it was really sluggish. This was once again the Russian government. You've heard the stories of how they wanted to hack into our election system. The truth is they did, and they tried by hacking into those devices to see if they could infiltrate the election system. These devices we have each come with a password, but most of us don't take the time to reset the password. So it's a factory set password. They're all the same. If you get a device and you don't know what the password is, you can look up the password on the internet. The criminals know this, so they'll search and see what devices they can find connected, see if they can get in because you haven't changed the password. If I can get into that device, I'm now on your network. I have bypassed all your security. Now, the good news for our presidential election, the Russians were unsuccessful. And the reason they were unsuccessful is because our voting system in the US is so antiquated that Russian technology was not able to mirror with it. We're using, again, yesterday's technology tomorrow to keep ourselves safe. But you and your business don't want to count on that. You want to make sure that you know what devices are in your home and office connected to the internet. If they don't need to be connected, don't connect them. I had many cases, including there was an Indian casino that had a large fish tank for display. The thermostat was controlled remotely via internet. Nobody had changed a password. The criminals hacked into the fish tank, were able to get into the casino and shut the whole casino operation down. You don't want to be the business known as being hacked by a fish tank. You want to make sure if they don't need to be online, don't have them connected to the internet. If you have a product that does need to be online, make sure it's password protected. We're going to have about 75 billion devices connected to the internet in very short order, and there's more devices coming.
John, I have a question what you just said. I have my regular with my home internet, I have two different internets. One is what I call guest, which doesn't connect to allow connections allegedly to all my devices. Is that one safe versus the other one, which is everyone else is logged into?
So having a guest connection is a great idea because it doesn't give people access to everything else is on the other system. A guest connection is essentially a whole different internet line. And yes, that would make it much safer, but also be aware what is connected. Make sure you're not using any device jointly. So for example, if you have an Amazon Echo, you can access off of either network, because if I can download malware and then you ever log into with the other network, it's an opportunity for that malware to spread. But yes, that for your clients, your customers, your house, for visiting guests, that is a great idea. Well done. All right. Artificial intelligence. You've heard a lot about artificial intelligence. This stuff has actually been around a while. Very narrow AI is, that board you can buy from Sharper Image where you could play chess against a computer. I bought one back at UTC, I think back in the 80s, and still have it. Now, it's more like the human mind. It has the ability to learn. And what really has people concerned is the super intelligence. It's smarter than the human brain. It not only can learn, it can process information. It never forgets anything. And therefore, it's becoming smarter and smarter as time goes on. Now, AI, while it may seem a little scary at times, it also has a lot of great uses, including for cybersecurity. We're training AI how to look for anomalies on the network to keep you safe. Stuff that the AI people could never do at the speed faster than any human. So as much as it's being used by the criminals, it's also being used by us to make sure we're protected. People are using AI in their business as well. I've got an example from American Airlines, and this is an example of how if you're going to use AI, you got to make sure it's properly configured. I travel a lot on American Airlines. I'm flying all over the country and outside the country. I got 400,000 miles last year alone from my speaking travels. I was stuck on a tarmac and it was a rainstorm. I don't blame anybody. It's, act of God. But American, recognizing me as a regular flyer and good customer, sent me this email saying, hey, we know about your experience being stuck. We'd like to give you 25,000 bonus miles. I didn't really think about it at the time, but nobody wrote this email to me. This is all AI generated. Nevertheless, being a nice guy, I wrote back and I'm like, hey, I got no complaint. Thank you very much for the generosity. Appreciate it. I consider this matter concluded. Well, the AI saw my response. Again, it's not a human being. And the AI was trained to look for complaints from people like me who are frequent flyers and spend a lot of money with the airlines. Despite the fact I said I have no complaint, it keyed on the word complaint.
Oh, geez.
And so I get this response back from American Airlines. We received your complaint. Would you be willing to accept $120 in addition to the 25,000 miles? So being an FBI agent, a good guy in general, human nature, I wrote back. I'm like, hey, thank you very much for your email. Really, I have no complaint. I consider this matter concluded. Their AI focused on the word complaint. So I get this email. We received your complaint. Would you be willing to take $160 in addition to the 25,000 miles? At this point, I'm working towards getting my name on the side of an airplane before I'm going to stop doing this. But multiply this by the number of people that communicate with American Airlines, and it could be a pretty hefty sum. It, by the way, has since been corrected, and this was brought to their attention. But who pays for losses like that? Well, it all goes to ticket prices and everything else. Same with your business. You want to be careful how you're using AI and making sure it's not giving away information or misinterpreting information. It's all about testing and running it through the process before you launch anything. I spoke of the business email compromise, that you could be a victim of this. This is a significant growing crime. The FBI reported 22,000 businesses last year alone complained about this crime. Think about that. It takes a lot to pick up the phone and call the FBI. 22,000 U.S. businesses did just that. Losses were about $2.7 billion and up almost 300% from the year before in the number of crimes. Why? Because this is effective. What it is it's basically a social engineering and a cybercrime combined into one. I hack into your network and I watch your email traffic and I'm looking for communications, clients that you're supposed to receive money from or send money for tax returns or business, vendors, etc. When I see the messages, I then create an email address, not on your network, but in my own separate email that looks just like your email. And I send out an email saying, great, here's the wiring instructions. This is really big if you're ever buying a home. They do this a lot to title companies. Let me show you what I'm talking about. So this is my email address on the top, FBI John. What if I wrote an email by fbljohn.com? You'd never see the difference. And that's what they do. So they think they're getting the right email with the right wiring instructions. Meanwhile, the money is going off elsewhere and overseas. So two things. Number one, easy crime to prevent. Make sure whenever you or your clients are ever sending money, you got to pick up the phone and confirm the instructions. And it's not just, hey, did you send me wiring instructions? You got to read back the wire number because, yeah, instructions were sent. It's just a criminal beat you and sent out their own instructions. The other thing here is if you're ever a victim and you lose the money, give me a call. If I find out within 48 hours, FinCEN is pretty good on putting holds on the money, I have been able to track down the funds and get them back. I recently had a Navy pilot out of Texas. He and his wife had been saving to buy their first home. They wired over $300,000 and it all went overseas. We tracked it to Singapore and it took some months, but we got every penny back. Now, while they did not get the home they wanted because the sale fell apart, they didn't lose their life savings either. So again, something like this happens. If you act quickly, you can stop it. The problem is most people don't discover once 3 days go by, that money has been dispersed and moved around the world. So you want to stay on top of this. Easier way, don't let it happen in the first place. Always confirm by phone wiring instructions. All right, your mobile devices. You're walking around with computers here, and with these computers, you've got some risks. First of all your contact information is on the phone for all your clients and everybody you do business with. I get access to your phone. I don't even need to know the password. I can plug in, download malware. Everything's going to come to me, and I could pretend to be you. I'll infect not only your phone, but think about all the business you're doing with your phone. You're checking your banking, you're doing your email. You do anything on those programs, I'm going to get on your desktop. Now I have wider exposure to everything I can do because I got into your phone. Some of the ways they do this, I don't even physically need your phone. You get those text messages with a URL. They want you to click on it. A lot of these URLs just download malware on your phone. If you ever get a text with a URL, ignore it. Go to your desk computer where you probably have antivirus software, etc. That's where you can take a look at the URL. If it comes from your doctor or something, it's probably legit. But when you get these strange, unsolicited ones, never click on them. You might get those phone calls, your car warranty is expired. That's what's called phishing. It's basically voicemail phishing. They have certain pieces of information about you. Now they want to get you on the phone to have you fill in the blanks. Trust me, nobody is offering you a car warranty on your 12-year-old vehicle. It's all a scam just to get information from you to add to it. Likewise, there's something where it's a combination of vishing and smishing. You might get a text message that appears to go to the wrong person, but it's very innocent and sweet. Here's an example of one. What they want to do is strike up a conversation with you, and it's all nice and pretty, and then they'll send you something. Oh, here, check out this funny meme, and they send you a link for you to click on. It downloads malware. Think about it. Nobody is texting the wrong person in today's day and age. The reality is anybody you're texting, their number's in your phone. There's no way to mistype in phone numbers unless you're typing it in manually, which is incredibly rare. So if you get a text message that appears to be to you by mistake and it's nice and sweet, it's a scam. Just delete it. Now, I got free time. I'm a cybersecurity expert. I like to play with these people. So you see this one here, Steve, I'm Kathy's mom. When do her piano lessons start? So I sent back, you're throwing good money away. Please stop bringing your daughter to piano lessons. The reality is this was a scam. Now, yes, there's always a chance some little girl is no longer getting piano lessons, but I'm willing to take that risk. I would say to you that just delete this stuff, ignore it. There is no way they're after legitimate information. Finally, juice jacking. Juice jacking is a way of downloading malware on your phone. Watch this brief video and it'll show you how they do it.
Hey guys, this alert is coming from law enforcement. Hackers have figured out a way to hide secret malware inside public charging stations. So if you're at the airport, the mall, the hotel, you plug in your phone, all looks okay. But what's really happening? Secret spyware is infecting your phone. Today, you're about to watch a hacker do it with ease. It's called juice jacking. Your phone battery is dying. You need a charge. So you find a public charging station to juice up. Everything looks normal. Phone is charging, all good. What you don't see? Secret malware giving hackers full access to your phone. And you'd never know. How easy is it for the hackers? We're about to show you. Let me just step down here. This is Brian Steely, a world-renowned hacker who operates here out of his own garage. This is where it all happens. Luckily, Brian uses his skills for good. Thanks for having us. I appreciate it. All right, so can I borrow this just for a second?
Please.
Thank you. So today, Brian is working on this charger right here, the kind of charger you'd find at any public charging station. And you're infecting this with malware, right?
Absolutely.
Spyware, so you can take control of people's phones. His victim today is me. He works fast, takes him only minutes to do it. And just like that, the charger is bugged. If I plug my phone into the charger, it'll look like it's charging, but you can actually watch what I'm doing.
You could be anywhere on the planet, and I could rob you completely blind without leaving this chair without putting on pants.
All right, so I'm gonna go try this. I'm gonna drive away from here. I'm gonna try this, and you're saying you'll be able to see what I do when I plug this into this.
Shut the door on the way out.
I drive 10 miles away from Brian's house. The charger is powered up, ready to go. Pulled into this parking lot. I'm gonna plug in my tablet and get going. I start browsing the web, and straight away I go for a hacker's dream. All right, I'm in my bank now. Now we'll definitely be changing my passwords after this, like right after this. Then I write some work emails and personal notes too. He said he can see contacts, so I'm gonna email my wife. And can't forget about my kids. We go on Amazon. My son wants this racing game. I play around online for a while, but now I need to know. Let's go see Brian, see what he saw. I'm back.
Welcome back.
Did it work?
Absolutely.
What'd you get?
I have your wife's phone number, for starters.
What's her name?
Danielle.
What's her phone number?
Ends in
That's correct. Okay.
You've emailed with someone named Deirdre,
My producer.
and I believe, I don't want to spoil the surprise, but your son might be getting a racetrack from Amazon. Does that sound about right?
My God. So you were able to see that, because I was looking at the picture right there. But then he tells me the scariest piece of private information of all.
I have your bank account number.
You have my bank account number. I did go on. Then he names my bank. Yeah. And my account number.
Ends in. I can read you back text messages from your wife, everybody you've ever texted, all your call history, everything that's on your phone is now mine.
And just when I think he's done, it gets even creepier. So what are you doing?
Taking a picture from the camera.
You can remotely,
Yeah.
you just, all because I plugged in.
Yep.
But I'm not in the charger anymore.
It just took once to get infected.
And then it stays on it?
This is now mine. And I get to do whatever I want with it. And you don't know anything's going on.
All right, folks. So you got to be aware of the dangers related to your phones. The bottom line is just don't plug into those USB ports. If you're plugging into an electrical outlet anywhere, that is all you need. We've got about 5 minutes remaining. I just want to hit a couple of points here. You know, you're using your phone. That makes you a remote worker anytime. It doesn't matter where you work from. If it's home, in the office, you're out on the street, you're at home, you're working remotely. And when people are working remotely, they're not thinking about cybersecurity. The criminals know that. I've got one other quick video here. If you're traveling, staying in a hotel, keep your stuff secured. This is a video from a camera an FBI agent I work with set up. Watch what happens when he leaves the room. They didn't know he was an FBI agent. They just thought he was a regular guest at the hotel.
哎呀，你把我吓一跳了。
这个我们没敢去看呐、这个脸好像是真的哦。
这个超他妈的死的快死的一满一满的。
你想跟他多少钱？可就我们不敢去帮他了吗？
这是一个微型的监控器，这个是多少？100的那个。
要告诉他别，你知道吗？你客人的思想口在那边，你还去告？
You don't want to leave your devices, your personal information, etc. Use that hotel safe. Vast majority of people in the industry are great people, but you just never know. It only takes one to put you at a risk. So when you're traveling ever, hey, during it, I keep my credit cards in an RFID little sleeve because you know how you can tap your credit card? Well, I can sit next to you in the lobby with one of those devices and read your credit card as well. This sleeve will prevent your information from being transferred. As I showed you, don't leave anything unattended. I use a privacy screen when I fly, something on my laptop. That way people sitting next to me can't see personal private info. And those public Wi-Fis, as I said, like with the guest Wi-Fi question, unless it's secured, anybody else can get on that Wi-Fi. They're on the network. They can get into your computer. And of course, the hotel safe. Afterwards, when you come back, hey, update your software. If it asks for an update, there's a reason for it. There's some sort of breach people can get in. If you think you've been compromised or you left something unattended, you can change the passwords. Always back up your data. Make sure you have everything you need. And if you had apps you downloaded, but you're no longer using, delete them, because someday those apps can get hacked. And if I can hack the app, now I can get into your device remotely. And finally, good old fashioned, check those credit card statements. They're stealing your info for a reason, and it's usually going to show up in the form of some sort of financial fraud. The reality is breaches, 25% is a cyber hack. The other 75% is really the insider, everything I just talked about. Not a bad person, just somebody who made a mistake and clicked on something. 1 in 8 employees at some point is going to make a mistake, and it can be expensive. The answer, of course, education, which you did today, and having some policies. These are companies that didn't have policies. We all know about the Target hack and things like that. Sears and Kmart, they didn't have any policies. Somebody decided to load malware and spyware on customer computers. Eli Lilly, the drug manufacturer, no policies. They sent out an email reminder to people who take the drug Prozac. Whoever wrote the email put everybody's name on the same 2 line. So you can imagine the HIPAA violations, the loss of money in lawsuits, etc. So some of the things to think about: cyber insurance. It could help make you whole if something were to happen. But if you're going to be hacked, anything happens, you need to determine how big is this? What's the scope? You got to inform people who are victims. It's required by the law. And there's 50 different state laws, no uniform federal law. There's companies that do this. They've made it nice and easy. God forbid you ever need it. But if you do, I can give you names. So wrapping this up, strong password's the key. I use a password keeper. I have a different password for every password I use. 2-factor authentication. I can steal your password, but if I don't have that 2-factor authentication, I still can't get in. Very important for banking. I store everything. I have a backup. I use the cloud. I have an external hard drive. And if I'm using sensitive info, especially in your business, always encrypt it. Use a VPN. It sounds harder than it is. Very easy to set up, and we can coach on that. I mentioned the cyber insurance, the training, which you've covered. And finally, hey, I'm a cybersecurity expert. I don't have time to look at my own devices. I have a third-party company. They monitor everything for me and keep me safe. Before an attack happens, you got to know what you're going to do. You got to have a plan. Who's going to be responsible for this? Who are you going to call? Do you have a forensic company that you would use to fix your system? Both pre-breach, you want to know who you would contact, and post-breach. Pre-breach, maybe it's the person monitoring your stuff. Post-breach, it's the company that do notifications. And of course, notify law enforcement. The FBI has an organization within it called InfraGard. It's a public-private alliance. If you're not familiar with InfraGard, check it out, infragard.org. It's a great information sharing. They'll let you know what the latest threats are. Also, it gives you access to the FBI if you ever need to give one a call. Dan mentioned I've got a couple of books. I'm not here to hawk books, but if you're interested, you can go to my website or Amazon. WTF, Why Teens Fail, What to Fix. It's a guide to keeping your kids safe online, school bullying, issues like that. And as he mentioned, disorderly conduct. It's all funny stories, but true stories from the FBI. With that, folks, hey, it's not a matter of if, it's when. It's going to happen. This is the crime of the 21st century. The only real question is, are you prepared? How will you respond? So with that, this is my contact info. Hold on to it. Here's the deal. I got nothing to sell you. I speak for a living and I travel the world doing it. You ever have a problem? Call me free of charge. I will talk you through the problem. If I can't fix it, I'll at least tell you what you need to do and give you some ideas of what kind of companies you need to contact. If you're on social media, follow me on Twitter. I put out a tip every single day on how to keep yourself safe in the cyber world and the physical world. With that, folks, I'm going to throw it back to Dan, and I'll let you take over, and you can look for my handout from him.
John, I want to add one thing to what you said is for my credit card, I have Capital One and I use virtual credit cards numbers for everything I do online. So if someone steals my credit card, they can't do a damn thing because it's only usable at one vendor.
And that is fantastic. I will tell you, I can count on one hand the number of people I've met that use the virtual credit card. It will come, but in the meantime, there's hundreds of millions of people who don't do that, and that's where the cyber criminals go.
John, thank you for the excellent presentation. very germane, both in business and personal life. Two questions, one for each world. On the business side, just curious what your take is on some of these SaaS providers like Zscaler, Palo Alto Networks, CrowdStrike. If you have any kind of recommendations and guidance there. And on the personal side, I always get these text messages or emails from advertisers, and somehow my name gets on a list, and an advertiser, gives it to another advertiser and gives it to another. And now all of a sudden I've got 7 things coming, and you can go and you can unsubscribe, and a lot of them look legit. Like if you get something from Amazon or even like Comcast, you have an official account, but then they also start sending you, promotions. And I say, I just want to unsubscribe from that. But I'm worried that if, I get something from a name that I don't even know, there's like a little link that says unsubscribe. Am I at risk of clicking on that and then getting infiltrated?
Boy, Jim, that is so smart. Absolutely. What I do is I don't waste my time unsubscribing. I just send it to my junk. And that way I don't hear from them again. And because they're trying to lure you into doing just that. So really wise you picked that up. Regarding the SaaS service from other companies for your network, etc., all that you mentioned are good. They also tend to be very, very, very expensive. I know half of the guys from CrowdStrike. We were all in the FBI together, but excellent service. Depending upon what your needs are, there's a lot of smaller services that are wonderful as well. Again, if you're ever in the market, I can give you a list of names of people to call. I don't take money from anybody because first of all, I get paid to speak. This is a rare exception. As Dan knows, I'm donating my time to be here today. But so I want to be true in when I make a referral that I've got no financial interest in it. So if you ever need anything, just give me a holler.
Thank you.
Any other final questions for John?
All right. Well, hey, I appreciate it. You've got my info. Dan's got the handout. And if you ever need anything, you can find me quite easily. But it's been a pleasure. Thanks for having me today.
John, thank you